This video is going to be about the Schrade SCHF25 full Tang Tanto knife. My name is Brian and you're watching Survival on Purpose. Okay, welcome back to Survival on Purpose. Thanks for checking in. As I said, today's video is going to be about the Schrade SCHF25 full Tang Tanto blade knife, and it's actually kind of a modified Tanto. We'll talk about that in a minute, but let me go ahead and transfer you to the stump top view here and give you some close-ups of the knife, talk about the specs, and then we'll get into some use testing, so stick with me. This is the Schrade SCHF25 full Tang Tanto fixed blade knife, and this knife features a stone-washed high carbon stainless steel blade of 9CR14 MOV steel. Has a clip point Tanto blade with jimping on it. We'll show you that in a minute. And black machine textured and grooved G10 handle slabs. And it comes with a multi-carry option thermoplastic sheath, which we'll take a closer look at in a minute also. The blade length on the SCHF25 is 4.6 inches. Handle length 5.1 inches for an overall length of 9.7 inches. Weighs in at 8 ounces. And the street price on this knife is about $45. Okay, so this is the Schrade SCHF25 again. Just want to show you a couple of quick things about the knife. First of all, while it is a Tanto design blade, there's a couple of differences between this and a normal Tanto blade. They're calling this a drop point Tanto. And what that means is right here at the bottom, at the curvature, it doesn't really have that sharp point like a standard Tanto blade would have. You know, Tanto, however you want to pronounce it, those blades are inherently pretty strong because they're so wide, you know, all the way going up, and they don't really get gradually thinner to the tip, so they're inherently strong. But one of the disadvantages, at least for some applications, is a lot of times they have that really sharp corner right here, which can come in handy for some things, but for other things, it's not as well, like, for example, skinning. This knife, by having the curvature right here, and I don't want to slice my finger on it, but it actually kind of gives you the best of both worlds. So I think it's a pretty cool blade. I've never really seen a lot of blades like this before. I kind of like the shape. I want to show you it's got some jimping here on top. Additionally, on top of the handle here, where there's actually a little thumb indentation on the handle. That's pretty cool. And then there's some more jimping on bottom. Has a couple of finger grooves here, and my hand is, I guess, is an average size hand. I wear, you know, large to medium glove. It just fits really well. My thumb fits right in that groove, right in the pocket like it's supposed to. Everything fits well. And the handle, the G10, it's got a little bit of texture here. If you can just, let me focus, if you can see that. And it's got the ribs here to really give you some good texture if your hands are wet. Has a little bit of a relief here, so it's not as sharp, not super sharp angles on it. It's even got the jimping up here if you want to get up closer, although it does not have a choil. That is in my opinion, that is a good way to cut your finger trying to use that for a choil, because it's just not big enough and you're going to slice up on that corner there if you're not really careful. So I would not do that. But so this jimping here, unless you got like really long thumbs, it's probably not going to be as handy as it could be. But all in all, the knife is balanced pretty well. And we'll talk about balance in a little while. You know we're going to. But I'll just go ahead and show you. It balances somewhere about right there. And it's a pretty heavy knife. Again, it's a full half a pound. Solid filling knife. So we're going to take a look and see how well this thing actually performs. I just want to show you these handle slabs are, apparently they're bolted on, so you can replace these and do what you need to with them, I'm sure. And it's got the black stone wash finish. 9CR14 MOV steel. So it's a high carbon stainless. I do want to show you the sheath also. So this is, they call this a thermoplastic sheath. And it's similar to Kydex, not really Kydex, I've got it dirty now. But the knife actually snaps in pretty solidly. Now, I bet if you tried, you could sling it out here, but you gotta, and I did, you gotta really try. I mean, it locks in pretty tight. It's almost like Kydex. It's got the little thumb bump here to help you push against and get it out, which is a good feature. It's also got a very small drain hole in the back here, if you can see that. Let me get it out of the way, you can see it better probably. Right there, underneath the grommet hole. A couple of lanyard or holes here, grommets for lashing, or whatever you want to do. Last but not least, the belt loop is adjustable, so you can actually turn it to have a horizontal carry or vertical carry. So that's the sheath. That's the knife, the SCHF25. Let's grab some wood and see how well this thing performs. Okay, so this is a 8-ounce knife. I'm gonna go ahead and do a little chopping here to see how well it chops. It's not really a chopper, but I'm thinking it'll do okay. So, okay, so tell you why I'm doing this. First of all, as you can see, it's wanting to slip out of my hand. There's no lanyard hole, no way to put a lanyard on it. So, and it is kind of grippy, but it's not grippy enough. And this jimping here is actually kind of less than comfortable on your hand. So it's doing a passable job of chopping, but it's not really that comfortable. And it keeps wanting to slide out of my hand. I'm trying to hold it back here, but there's no enlarged area or anything to catch your grip. So the only thing catching you is this jimping right here. The jimping right here, and it's catching your fingers. So it's not probably super great. It gets the job done though, so I can't really complain about that. And honestly, when you would be using this knife for chopping would be in an emergency situation, and it's sufficient for that. You know, this is not going to be your go-to chopper unless you're just, I don't know. I would normally probably have a hatchet if I plan on doing a lot of chopping. Okay, so I got a piece of pine here. It's kind of screwed up on one end, but it's the way I had it laying around. It's the hardest thing I could find. I cut it with my saw to do this, so I'm going to go ahead and split this out and see. And this is probably about the biggest you want to try to do. I mean, you got 4.5-inch blade. This is about a 3-inch piece of wood. So, and pine is actually going to be something that's pretty common to use for building a fire because it's a good burning wood. So, see how well this does. I don't know if my baton is going to hold up or not. I got more concerned about the baton than I do about the knife, to be honest with you. We're about the limits of the size of this blade. Some hard daggum pine. And the other problem is that the bottom of this thing's not really solid, so it's absorbing a lot of shock. Okay, pine was tougher than I thought it was going to be. Okay, so it actually did a fine job of batoning. I mean, it got the job done. The scales got a little loose, just a little wobbly here, and I noticed it about halfway through. I was beating the heck out of it, to be honest with you. You can see the sweat rolling off on my brow. Good thing is there are little star bits here, so be able to tighten those up. But all in all, it got the job done. And if you're looking for a survival type knife, you know, that's what you're going to do. Again, you're not going to be chopping and batoning with the knife regularly. I wouldn't think, at least not big stuff. That's probably more than I would ever do on a day-to-day basis with a knife. I would use a hatchet or an axe for that. Small stuff, yeah, all the time. For building fires, it's even probably safer to use a knife on small stuff than it is to try to use a hatchet. But he got the job done, and that's what really counts when the chips are down. Let's see how well it does in carving tasks. So I've got a piece of that pine I cut off, and we'll just actually see how well it does on the pine, since that's what we used to cut off, making some feather sticks kind of. This is a great big piece. It probably should have been split down another time. Probably should have split another time, but it's actually doing really good though. So you can see those are some nice curls, very nice curls. This would be great for a fire. I'm gonna cut those off. itsy bitsy ones there. Okay, any knife, obviously, I'm going to check the spine. Spine is pretty sharp. It actually seems to have a little bit of roundness to it. Let's see how well it works on a ferro rod. It's okay. Let's see what we can do with this thing here now. Hold it still. Let's try this little choil area right here. It's doing okay, but it's not really not. I don't like that. Okay, so this is a light my fire ferro rod, so Swedish steel Army. It's a good ferro rod. It's not the ferro rod. It's making some sparks, but just not a lot. Comparison to the striker. So the spine on this knife is just not really quite sharp enough for me. Try it with the jimping area. It's a little sharper. Okay, so this will be the point in the review normally where I talk about how well balanced the knife is and show you why I like that. Being as how these handles are already a little bit loose, I really don't want to put too much more shock and jaw on this thing. I'm going to go ahead and I don't have any tools with me right now to tighten this up, but I'm going to go ahead and at least give it a couple of whirls, and then we'll wrap this thing up. Okay, so that's my initial review of the Schrade SCHF25 full tang drop point Tanto bladed knife. And so what do we think about this thing? First of all, as far as chopping goes, it did okay. It's not the greatest chopper in the world. The end of the grip really just tapers down. It wants to slide out of your hand. The only thing stops it from doing it are these jimpings, which really grab your finger. Not the most comfortable thing in the world. So it's not an everyday chopper. If you had to use it though, it'll work. It's got enough mass, it's 8 ounces, and it's sharp enough. And even the little angle, it's got a little bit of a forward cant to the blade. So it'll work in a survival situation. I can't really fault that, you know, did fine. As far as batoning goes, did great, as long as you don't get too big. It's a 4.5 inch blade, almost 4.5. The only issue we had there was, again, the scales got a little bit loose. Still don't think you can see that, but they got a little bit of a wiggle in them. They are tightenable with these screws. Tightenable, is that a word? Anyway, you can tighten them with these screws. I'm probably gonna stick a little epoxy behind there. Other than that, I think it'd be fine. I mean, this is a really solid knife. Carving, did excellent. Excellent feather sticking, excellent feel to the knife. It bounces very well. It's very, very usable shape and handle shape. Did a lot of really fine carving, really well. And to my mind, the biggest negative on this knife is the ferro rod striking. It just did not have a very sharp spine. It seems to be getting a little sharper. I think sometimes the more you use these things, the sharper they get, but a little touching up with a file would be fine, would make all the difference in the world, and that's really all it needs. But it'd be nice to see that coming from the factory that way. I know a lot of times the manufacturers don't really do that for comfort, but I'd like to see it myself. So that's the biggest drawback is the ferro rod. And honestly, sorry, sweating here. Honestly, you know, Moors, you can't strike a ferro rod with a Moor either, and they're really good knives. So that's not a deal breaker, but I have to say, Schrade, I wish you would do a little bit more with the spine here, and this would be really an all-around knife, a lot better knife. But altogether, and the sheath, I like the sheath. It's kind of like a thin Kydex type material. Got a thumb push ramp, adjustable belt loop, really good sheath for the money. Again, this knife is somewhere in the neighborhood of 45 bucks, so it's under 50 bucks. Pretty good value. If you like this blade shape, I kind of like the little modified Tanto. It gives you the belly here where for skinning or whatever, but it's got the strength of a full thick blade through here like a Tanto. Strong tip. So it's a pretty good size spine, maybe a little more than 1/8 of an inch, I'm not sure. Altogether, pretty decent knife. Not perfect, but pretty good. If you like this style knife, if you like these G10 handles, which I do, they provide a really solid, heavy, really good feeling knife. Check out the SCHF25 from Schrade. As always, thanks for watching Survival on Purpose. Thanks for subscribing. Thanks for clicking that thumbs up below. Let Google know you like this kind of video. Share it with your friends if you think they'll like it. And if you'd like to support this channel, just check out the Amazon links below. I'd really appreciate it. Also, I'd be really interested in hearing what you have to say about this knife, about knives in general, and whatever other outdoor and survival subjects that you'd like to talk about. Leave your comments below. That's what this channel is all about. It's learning from each other and sharing our ideas. Once again, my name's Brian. You're watching Survival on Purpose. Remember, survival's not an accident, so be prepared. See you next time.